Hi there, I am the Reverend Danny Crosby, a Unitarian minister serving congregations in Altrincham and in Urmston in the northwest of England. And I offer this devotion as a balm for the heart, for the mind, for the spirit and for the soul. And it's titled, They Don't Publish the Good News. The Good News is published by us. I'm going to begin with a rather wonderful poem, The Good News by Thich Nhat Hanh. The Good News by Thich Nhat Hanh. They don't publish the good news. The good news is published by us. We have a special edition every moment, and we need you to read it. The good news is that you are alive, and the linden tree is still there, standing firm in the harsh winter. The good news is that you have wonderful eyes to touch the blue sky. The good news is that your child is there before you, and your arms are available. Hugging is possible. They only print what is wrong. Look at each of our special editions. We always offer the things that are not wrong. We want you to benefit from them and help protect them. The dandelion is there by the sidewalk, smiling its wondrous smile, singing the song of eternity. Listen, you have ears that can hear it. Bow your head, listen to it. Leave behind the world of sorrow and preoccupation and get free. The latest good news is that you can do it. Excuse me. On the drive back from our Jack's wedding a couple of weeks ago, we stopped off at the village of Grassington. It was lovely to walk in the Yorkshire countryside on such a beautiful day. We walked without thought of where we were going, and eventually we decided to kind of make our own way back towards the village. We'd been too preoccupied by dry stone walls and sheep upon sheep upon sheep and just glowing in the sunshine. But eventually we wandered back to the village. We didn't get lost. As we wandered around taking in the people and the place, I noticed a sign on a tiny local jewellery shop that read, Home of the Notorious Tom Lee. We called in and purchased something, and as we paid I asked about the sign outside, and the owner was only too pleased to tell the story of the notorious Tom Lee. He was the local blacksmith who lived and worked in the building and also a very small inn next door. He had murdered the local doctor and terrorised the village and the surrounding area. A thief, a highwayman, an all-round bad man. He had apparently been shot and injured during a highway robbery, and the local doctor Richard Petty had tended to his wounds. Fearing the doctor would inform on him, he took him on a wild drinking spree, and he won, following winning a load of money on a cockfight in the nearby village of Kettlewell, which was the place of our Jack's wedding actually. The doctor was lured to the woods and was murdered. Now, despite being the prime suspect, there was not enough evidence to convict Tom Lee. But eventually Tom Lee was informed on when he boasted on a drunken night, and he was caught and found guilty at York Assizes, where he was hanged for his crimes. Later his body was left in a cage in Grassington to warn other would-be criminals. It's a gruesome and fascinating tale, and one that the village is perhaps most known for. There were no other plaques that I could see to local people. And it all got me thinking about how we know places and how we know people. It got me thinking about notoriety and our fascination with bad news and bad people, bad events. How we are fascinated by darkness and dark people, whether they be notorious murderers or world leaders. People love gangster stories and stories about highwaymen, don't they? My childhood was filled with tales of characters such as Dick Turpin and Ned Kelly and Jesse James and Al Capone. Gangster films are ever more popular, it seems. People today are fascinated by true crime stories and stories of murderers and serial killers. And recent research has shown how this can be psychologically damaging to people. It just taps into that reptilian fear. There is a fascination with notorious public figures. People love loved the likes of Donald Trump and Boris Johnson, while honest, decent politicians are seen as dull and uninspiring. That's what they say. There is a fascination with celebrity gossip and celebrity influencers online that people are obsessed and listen to about all kinds of things. And they're just ordinary people, really. And meanwhile, there is a distrust of those who do good, who give their lives for others. They are often seen through suspicious eyes or considered dull and boring. People are even told to hide their light and not talk about the good that they do, to not share the good news. Therefore, sadly, all we ever hear is the bad news. Because the good news is not up in lights, and yet generally speaking, it is the good news that occurs throughout most of our lives. The good news does not stand out and shine bright, though it's not cocky. Well, maybe it should be. Maybe it's time to tell the good news, to evangelize, if you like, to truly evangelize. The other evening, Adi Tyndall, a member of the congregation, led a fascinating conversation during our monthly Living the Questions on this very subject. The subject being, what is the good news? He introduced the conversation explaining where the word evangelize comes from. He explained that the ancient Greek word evangelion, meaning good news, was made popular in the Greco-Roman world, especially under the reigns of the emperors Augustus and, of course, Caesar, where they proclaimed a military victory to the masses of the Roman Empire, declaring salvation for the empire. Salvation. This is what it meant to evangelize. Of course, this idea was adapted by the early Christians who declared the good news of Jesus Christ and his salvation. But salvation in a very different sense to what the Romans were speaking of. Ada then opened up the conversation and invited us to explore the spirit of Evangelon in our context and our own personal experiences, asking if any of us had good news to share, asking how we share our good news, if we do at all. And what is the good news? Exploring that rather than just all the terrible news that we all never hear of. Asking also, where is there a place for hope in all of this? Going back to original ideas of evangelon, whether the Roman or the Christian idea of it, what it meant to evangelize, to spread the good news. Is there hope at the heart of this? We also talked a lot about discomfort and distrust with people who evangelize, with the whole concept of evangelism. How people feel uncomfortable when people want to tell you what they consider to be their good news, if they're trying to save you, if you like, through their good news, to truly evangelize. We often turn off from someone who is evangelizing about whatever subject it might be. It doesn't have to be a spiritual subject, it could be anything. Remember, the original meaning had nothing to do with that. I experienced it myself the other day as a friend was trying to tell me the merits of the carnivore diet. After first being taken aback by the approach, I did take some time looking into it. I thought, well, should at least give them the time to at least explore and see what people's opinions on such a diet is. It's very interesting what I read, but I won't be following it. My ears, I did not have ears to hear. Well, I did hear actually, and I absorbed and I thought about it, but I think I won't be going near that. Thank you very much. But they were trying to help. They met this diet and it was really helping them. So they were spreading their good news. Why do we only talk about what is wrong? Why do we promote only the bad news in life? Why do we build statues to the notorious? Why is it that a brutal murder is the biggest talking point of that beautiful village of Grassington. Hey, I'm talking about it now. Well, actually, the fact that we talk about it, there is some good news even in that. We talk about it because it's so rare and so shocking. Most people live decent, caring lives. They will do anything they can to help. Something I have witnessed wherever I have been in life, wherever I have gone, even in the last few days. We do good because it's an instinctive thing to do. The problem is that we are told not to talk about it, to hide our light. Maybe we should. Maybe we should talk about it. Maybe by doing so we encourage others to do exactly the same, and in so doing everybody gains. So long as we ourselves do not become the bad news by overwhelming others, by evangelizing too much, I guess, with our good news. The good news is a joyful thing. It should be a joyful thing. And sharing what is good in life brings joy to not only ourselves, but to others too. It's something that needs to spread. The former chief rabbi, Jonathan Sachs, once said, "Doing good is not painful, a matter of doer duty and a chastening conscience." There is a Hebrew word, a key term of the Bible, for which there is no precise English translation. Simah, usually translated as joy. What it really means is the happiness we share, or better still, the happiness we make by sharing. We create good news, if you like. There is real joy in doing good, and everyone gains by it, and yet we are encouraged to hide such light. It's such a shame, as joy is one of those feelings that grows and multiplies as we share it. Like the rabbi said, like Jonathan Sachs said, the happiness we make by sharing. Like love, joy increases by subtraction. The more we give away, the more it grows for all. It's good for our souls and for the souls of others to do so. As Swami Vivekananda has said, the more we come out and do good to others, the more our hearts will be purified and God will be in them. Or as Thich Nhat Hanh said in that wonderful poem, The Good News, they don't print the good news. That is our task. We have to make and publicise our own good news, to be aware of the good news that we are surrounded by. We need to be grateful that we experience life at all. He says, listen, you have ears that can hear it. Bow your head, listen to it. Leave behind the world of sorrow and preoccupation and get free. The latest good news is that you can do it. Of course, there are those who do try to spread the good news. I remember as a child, on the ITV News at 10, they used to have an "and finally" section right at the very end, which was a good news item, a heartwarming tale. There's the Good News Network and similar publications that are mainly online these days that try to publicise good things in the world. So there are pockets of folk trying to spread the good news, but they're a bit rare. Of course, there is a sadness, there's horrific things that happen in this world, but there is also beauty, love, compassion and courage too. It's just a shame that most of our modern media and even ourselves no longer believes that this is what we should be spreading, that good news sells. The news of the world may well have gone the way of the dodo and the dinosaur, but what the news of the world traded in is still strong and seems to get stronger by the day. Maybe there's another problem. Maybe the real problem is that we've become unreceptive to good news. Maybe we no longer have ears that hear. Maybe we find it hard to take in the good news, and just as importantly, to share in the good news, to become the good news, to nurture it, to let the good news flower and grow. But we do this by not only our good deeds, but by letting others see our good deeds. Maybe we have a duty to spread it, to share it, to not be afraid, to shine bright like a lantern, as somebody once said. As Hildegard of Bingen once said, a person becomes a flowering orchard. The person that does good work is indeed this orchard bearing good fruit. Whatever humanity does with its deeds in the right or left hand permeates the universe. So let's prepare our ground for the good news, maybe to become more receptive. Let's create a beautiful garden and let our garden bear fruit. In the parable of the sower in Luke's Gospel, chapter 8, verses 4 to 8, Jesus tells the crowd that the sower threw seeds on the path and that they were trampled on and eaten by birds, while other seed fell on rocky ground where roots were weak and therefore the plants withered and died. Still others fell on thorn, and the thorns grew up and choked the plants. Finally, some fell on good soil, where they thrived and brought forth grain, growing up and increasing 100-fold. So let's prepare the ground for the good news. Let it flower and grow. Maybe we need to find new ways of sharing the good news, telling our stories to one another. Because maybe it's through stories that we spread our good news, by sharing our own accounts of our own lives. The great sages such as Jesus and Buddha spoke in parables in attempts to help people get to the deeper meaning of their message. They wanted the ears that heard to wrestle with what was being said and therefore come to a deeper understanding, to not just swallow it, but to truly absorb it, to digest and absorb it, not just swallow the news. I believe in the parable of the sower, Jesus is telling his followers that in order to hear the good news, you need to become receptive to it. And as I've said many times before, I believe that every one of us has the deep potential for deep compassion, as well as that potential for hatred and extreme selfishness. But it matters how we prepare ourselves for who we are and for this world. The key, of course, is to feed and develop that compassionate aspect of ourselves, and then we can indeed impact positively on the world in which we live. I do believe that the kingdom of heaven is within all of us, as is hell for that matter, and that we can indeed build that kingdom here on earth, or we can build our own living hell here on earth. It really is down to how we live our lives. The parable of the sower, the Good News Network, the words of Thich Nhat Hanh, little conversations throughout our day, smiling at someone in the street as you pass them, passing on a good turn given to you can indeed lead to some kind of chaos theory of compassion. It can grow. It's time to start spreading the good news of the decent and the ordinary, and not just talk about the notorious. Hold them up as a light for the world to see. No, let's shine the good news, some light on the good news. Start spreading the good news. We can change our world today. I'm going to end with the poem So by Leonard Nathan. I began with a poem, why not end with one? And this poem, it's addressed to everyone really. It's an every person poem. We people who live ordinary lives. It's not addressed to the famous or the infamous, the notorious. No, it's addressed to we ordinary people who create the good news. We are the most important people in the lives of others, you know. We influence through our ordinary daily interactions. And there's always something deeply meaningful and effective that we can do in our ordinary lives. It can make all the difference. So let's start spreading the good news. So this is So by Leonard Nathan. So, you aren't Tolstoy or St. Francis or even a well-known singer of popular songs, and will never read Greek or speak French fluently. We'll never see something no one else has seen before through a lens or with the naked eye. You've been given just the one life in this world that matters and upon which every other life somehow depends as long as you live, and also given the costly gifts of hunger, choice and pain with which to raise a modest shrine to meaning. Do with what you have. Do with whatever you can with what you have. It's a beautiful gift if you just let it shine. I'm going to end with some final words of blessing. You know, we all need to bless more, and we can all bless. We bless when we give ourselves wholeheartedly to life. May the love we have known through our days be alive in our hearts and our being, and may we carry the vision of that love with us as we step once more into the world. May the divine love shine bright from our very being, and may we carry this spirit with us, and may we do so in all that we feel, in all that we think, in all that we say, and in all that we do. Amen.